Welcome back to another edition of SJHL Weekly. Thank you so much for joining us across all of our social media platforms. My name is Jeromy Corrigan, and each and every episode of SJHL Weekly is presented by Chevrolet, Capital Auto Mall, Great Western, Cantera Seeds, RBC, Viterra, SaskTel, SGEU, Direct West, Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association, Tourism Saskatchewan, and Young's Equipment. Thanks so much for joining us once again. I'm Jeromy Corrigan, and as usual, I am joined by my lovely co-host, Jamie Neugebauer. Jamie, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great. Lovely. I appreciate that.
You're
Thank you.
most welcome. Of course, you might not see Rory is not here in person, but he is live on the video chat. Rory Mcgouran joins us live from his beautiful home in Humboldt. Rory, how are we doing today?
Yeah, we're doing great. What a weekend of hockey it was in the SJHL, right? But have to get some new tires on the Acura. So zooming me in for today's episode. I'll be back there in studio next week.
Yeah, maybe we'll get you a good deal on tires if the right people are watching the show right now.
Hey, I got hammered for shouting out Tower Pizza and Estevan last week, and now we're trying to get tires.
Now we're trying to get tires.
Hey,
what's
the
next?
show for if not to promote our needs?
What's next? All right. Well, like Rory kind of mentioned, it was a busy weekend in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. So let's get right into the scores. Friday night, we saw 5 games on the schedule, and it was the L'Orange Ice Wolves earning a 3-2 win over the Melville Millionaires. Humboldt with that big 11-4 win over Nipawin. Flin Flon doubled up Weyburn 6-3. Melfort handing Battleford their first loss of the season, now in a shootout, 2-1. And then Estevan won 3-0 over the Kindersley Clippers. Then on Saturday, we had another 5 games on the schedule. L'Orange finishing up their road trip with a 4-1 win over Yorkton. Battleford bouncing back with a 7-3 win over Estevan, snapping Estevan's 7-game winning streak. Humboldt with a 2-1 win over Melville. Kindersley, 7-4 winners over Melfort. And the Notre Dame Hounds with a 4-1 win over the Flin Flon Bombers. Let's start with Rory. Rory, the Humboldt Broncos, obviously, we saw on the scoreboard 2 big wins for the Broncos. What did you see from the team both Friday and Saturday?
I saw that the taste of defeat is apparently very bitter because the L'Orange Ice Wolves handed the Humboldt Broncos their first loss of the season. They went back into Nipawin and put up the highest total in any game in the SJHL across the early going of this year with an 11-4 victory over the Hawks. I think it was the kind of answer that Scott Barney would have wanted to see out of his team. They maybe, were getting a little bit too high after the 8-game winning streak and then a reality check against a really tough L'Orange team. But then they go into Nipawin, and only 2 players didn't find the score sheet. We had a 5-point night from Jacob Boucher, 4-point night for Cage Newens. There was a lot of offense. Nipawin, I don't think, played that terribly. They maybe didn't get help from their goaltenders a lot, but Humboldt proved that when they're on their game, this is the team that you're going to have to go up against. They have the most goals per game in the league. They have the most shots on net per league, and they only allow the fewest shots on their own net at 29 per game. So it's tops in the SJHL in all regard. And you got to look at Tristan Boileau, who started his first 4 games and maybe was a little bit, getting adjusted to the SJHL and the pace of play, I guess. But his last 4 games, he has a .962 save percentage, and he's moved all the way up into the second place with a .211 goals against average. So if the Broncos have a goaltender that can play that way throughout the 56 games, watch out, because then there's really no weakness on that team.
Yes, a big weekend for the Humboldt Broncos. And now, Jamie, I'll go to you. You obviously just, with the Notre Dame Hounds, just having the 1 game over the weekend, but a 4-1 win over the Flin Flon Bombers, one of the top teams in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. What did you see from the Hounds on Saturday night?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, a word for Flin Flon. I think 4 games in 5 days, and I actually spoke to Mike Reagan on the phone this morning. I talked about the game, and not easy, 4-5. Not easy coming to Wilcox and playing on that big ice surface. The Bombers had played the night before in Weyburn and had won, but, it's a toll. Now, that all being said, as Mike Reagan said, that's just an excuse. Tiredness is just an excuse, and we're not in the excuse business in Flin Flon. So kudos to them. Finally, I got to say kudos to the Hounds because not a lot of people gave them a lot of respect throughout the start of this year, and teams have come into Wilcox at the end of 3-on-3s, 4-and-5s, and both teams maybe have looked a little sluggish and then the Hounds have found a still way to lose the game and shoot themselves in the foot over my time in the league. Not this game. The Hounds dominated the Flin Flon Bombers really from start to finish. And I think over this 4-game span in Wilcox, the Hounds have played really well. For the most part, they badly outplayed Estevan. Last week got a point, and then a win against Melfort, win against Flin Flon here. Great production again, and finally, again, there's debate, Jeromy. There's lots of good defensemen in this league, but for my money, and you can call me a homer if you want, I don't care. Jared Sitch is the number one all-around defenseman, definitely in his own zone, definitely defensively in this league, and I would not take anybody ahead of Jared Sitch right now.
So a big win for the Notre Dame Hounds on Saturday, making it back-to-back wins, and they have a big week ahead of them. And that's a good segue, obviously, to mention also that later on the show, we are going to be joined by the latest Air Force commits, that being Notre Dame Hounds forward Will Dawson. Now, Rory, you mentioned the Friday game for the Humboldt Broncos against the Nipawin Hawks. I want to ask you about the Saturday game going up against the Melville Millionaires, and obviously Humboldt coming off that 11-4 win. And Melville, they had lost 2 games that this past week going into that game, losing 7-2 to Flin Flon on Tuesday, and then a tough 3-2 defeat on Friday to the Larange Ice Wolves. What did you make from Melville's play on Saturday?
I want to give the Melville Millionaires a lot of credit for their play on Saturday, because the Humboldt Broncos scored 9 seconds into the game, Lucas Ceccarelli, and then they scored 3 minutes later shorthanded. So a team that's rolling like Humboldt, and the firepower, when they get 2 goals, 1 shorthanded in the first 4 minutes of the game, can be deflating. But after that, Melville tightened everything up. Humboldt couldn't really get any secondary opportunities, and when they did, Kelton Pine was phenomenal in net. I felt throughout the game, especially the final 10 minutes, was maybe the most tense 10-minute stretch that the Humboldt Broncos have played this season, and that's a credit to the Melville Millionaires and the pressure they put on the defense and Tristan Boileau. Broncos had to really fight in their own zone. They had to box out in front of the net. Boileau made some big saves, and Melville was right in it until the end. Even had a late power play where I expected Mike Rooney to pull the goaltender. He elected to go conservative and leave him in the net. But Melville was right there. They did what they needed to do to have a chance to win that game, but the Broncos were able to pull it out in the end. There's one thing for Melville. It's we know how capable and amazing Noah Wills is, but he has 1 point in his last 4 games. So if teams are keying in on Noah Wills and shutting him down, they're going to need some secondary scoring to help pick up some wins in the column.
It was a great performance for the Melville Millionaires in that game, despite the result. And that is actually where we're going to go for our Tourism Saskatchewan highlights of the week. This one coming from the Melville Millionaires against the Humboldt Broncos. Have a look.
By Maddox Amaral. He's got Roy with him. Amaral wide. Amaral around the net. Wraparound chance. He scores! What a drive by Maddox Amaral. And it's an individual effort at the end of the power play. So it's an even strength goal, and the Broncos lead by 3. Oh, no goal. The referees are saying no goal back behind the net.
Hey, it fooled me too, Rory. That's fine.
Great
save. Wow, what a stop by Pine. We've seen his athleticism.
And then we had no goal. So I don't think this one's going to stand.
Yeah, the replay
if you're watching Hockey TV, we'll get another look. What a great drive by Amaral.
Oh.
And I don't know. The fans think that one's in. We'll see here. Oh, maybe not. What a save by Kelton Pine.
Rory, I got to ask you, when you saw that live, obviously we heard in the cold call, you thought it was a goal, but what a save, hey?
I think Scott Barney still thought it was a goal after the game when I talked to him. I was like, he's like, I'm pretty sure that went in. But no, the referee signaled goal at first and then went behind the net and took a look. And I'm not sure if he talked to the goal judge behind. But then after 10 seconds or so, signaled no goal. And then when you have that above net camera angle like they do in Humboldt, you can see Kelton Pine robbed Maddox Amaral. What a glove save. One of the top 5 in the year for sure this year.
Yeah, we're only a month into the season, and we already got a Save of the Year candidate, which is exciting. One of the big matchups from the weekend, Jamie, was the Balfour North Stars playing host to the Melfort Mustangs on Friday night. And you have to give credit where credit's due. Melfort playing a very gritty road effort, and they hands Battleford their first loss of the season. What did you kind of make from that game?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing a wild up and wild down from the Melfort Mustangs lately, right? I mean, they came in against the Hounds there in Wilcox, and they looked okay. Like a bounce one way or the other could have been a different game. But man, when they're going, when they're playing Trevor Blevins' system, I mean, you talk about two teams that are fun to watch, just the way that their coaches have them play. I think the Melfort Mustangs and Battleford's North Stars are near the top of my list, just in terms of the pace that they get it going. But Joel Favreau, you and I talked about it. Rory, we talked about it, early this year, that we expected Joel Favreau to be, the cream, maybe 1 or 1A, 1B best goalies in the league, and he proved it in front of a great crowd in Battleford's. Jeremy, you said you were there, over definitely over 1,000 people in that barn, and kudos to the Mustangs to coming out. And last thing I'll say about it is, how about the cojones, the guts on Riley Ash, 16-year-old kid on the Melfort Mustangs. We talked about him a lot. To go and take a shootout, a penalty shot in a shootout in front of 1,000 hostile fans, and win the game for his team.
Rory, to build off that, I want to ask you, because with this Melfort Mustangs club, we've talked about it through the first month of the season, the three of us and other broadcasters, we expect this Melfort Mustangs club to be one of the top teams in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. But for them to go into Battleford on Friday, hand the Battleford North Stars their first loss of the season in the shootout, and then follow it up with a disappointing loss in Kindersley on Saturday. What do you make of this team 1 month into the season?
I think that's just that. It's inconsistent. And I think it's probably frustrating for Trevor Blevins to get a performance from Joel Favreau on Friday. You beat the undefeated North Stars on the road in a very hard building to win in. And then you go into Kindersley, and I think, no pun intended, the tires fall off. My tires didn't fall off my car, but you know what I mean. But so I think it's inconsistency right now. And the Melfort Mustangs, when you look, they picked up 4 of their points from losing in extra time. They've only won 4 out of 14 games. So that's right. If they're in the games for sure, but it's right now along a line, I think, where it can turn into a lot of turmoil very quickly if they don't find some consistency. I still think they're a really talented team, but you can't get too far behind the 8 ball, and then you start getting emotions and dressing room and gripping the stick too tight. It can snowball. So I just think it's a consistency issue. I still think they're really good. You see them knock off the Battlefords. And one more knock on the Battleford's North Stars is they're outscoring their opponents 18-2 in the opening frame. They've scored the game's first goal 11 out of their 12 games, and they've won every game where they've scored the game's first goal. So you need to get on Battleford's early, or else your night's over in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, and I was at that game, and it was a really good effort by the Melfort Mustangs. They controlled the play in the first 40 minutes of play, and then it was almost like the switch kind of went on for the Battleford North Stars. They realized, okay, we're trailing 1-0 going into this third period, and they controlled the third. They controlled overtime. But like Jamie mentioned, Riley Ash in the shootout with the winner. Jamie, the other side of that's obviously loss for Melfort to Kindersley. It's a big win for the Kindersley Clippers. We were talking about going into that game for Kindersley. They hadn't scored a goal in 3 games, and then they explode for 7 Saturday night against Melfort. Maybe this is a kind of the spark that the Clippers need as they continue a 5-game homestand.
Yeah, it's for me, for the whole season for the Kindersley Clippers, it's been a bounce. They just haven't gotten the bounces. They haven't gotten the save when they've needed it, and they haven't had the guy when he's in the spot to take a shot and put the puck in the net. And it sounds very simple, but the Clippers haven't played badly. They've played well for Ken Plaquin. They did last year too. They played very, very, very hard for him and for those great fans out there in Kindersley. So it's almost a law of averages that they were bound to kind of figure it out. Obviously, that's not the way it works. Hard work, 100%. Overcomes it. But they move off of Carson Bayless. They send him to Notre Dame, and he's off to a tremendous start. And the Clippers had to be thinking, we got rid of this guy who had no points for Kindersley. Now he's got 3 for Notre Dame in 2 games, and he's been fantastic. And they got to be thinking, where are we going to get a goal from? And the Clippers get it from a couple, guys that have been, grinding and working their way down the bottom there of the lineup, so to speak. They got Ethan Scriven from Battlefords to be part of that solution. The Clippers did, and he got, a goal. Caden Ostrom hasn't played much this year, and he jumps in, gets a goal, and they get a performance from Cody Jamin. So you know, you know what? It's still so early, and I think Ken Plaquin can't be, you know, too disappointed with the way that the season started.
And Cody Jamin was credited for a goal in that game as well. That is the second time this season, in the first month, we've seen a goalie goal, which is pretty spectacular too. But you touched on it. Obviously, a big win for the Clippers. And it was a great turnout on both Friday and Saturday for the Kindersley Clippers as part of their alumni weekend. It was an awesome atmosphere on Saturday for the game. And obviously, the Clippers performed and they got the win. Rory, one team I want to actually ask you about is the team that's handed the Humboldt Broncos their first loss of the season, the La Ronge Ice Wolves. I think, you know, these two teams have played so many times, Humboldt and La Ronge already this season, 4 times. And for La Ronge to go into Humboldt, they earn a 3-2 comeback win in dramatic fashion, and then they continue the trip and they win 3 out of 4. What did you see from La Ronge, I guess, on Tuesday? And for them to go down south and pick up 3 out of 4 wins, did that surprise you?
Didn't surprise me at all. I'll always talk about the La Ronge Ice Wolves as one of the best teams in the league. They will infuriate you with their style of play, with their pressure, with their speed. They're mean. You never have a fun game against La Ronge when you're playing them. They're just in your face. Riley Morgan, I think, might be one of the underrated players in the league. He doesn't get enough praise. Undersized, but man, he's got so much skill, and his vision around the ice, the way he can lay pucks in areas where he knows that his team is going to get to them first. It might not be a tape-to-tape pass, but he knows his guy's going to get there before the defenseman. It's just a cerebral player that I really don't think gets talked about enough. But in Humboldt, they score with 1 minute and 20 seconds left to tie the game, and then a lapse of concentration from the Broncos is all it takes for the Ice Wolves to jump on you. They score another one to pick up that 3-2 victory, and then keep rolling down the stretch. They got Kevin Kaminsky back behind the bench, so this is a team that right now I think is it's nothing but up for the La Ronge Ice Wolves. And Topher Chirico, what is he? Save percentage of like .970 over the 2 games. Yeah, he's been fantastic. So if they got a 1-2 punch now with Dawson Smith and Chirico, it's a deadly team.
Yeah, absolutely. Great points, Rory. 4-1 in their last 5.
Yeah.
Only one loss was a tight loss Wednesday in Yorkton. And they've got 10 of the next 11 up there at the Mel. So, you know what? Like those power rankings, the Ice Wolves, ding, 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 Blinko. Like they look good. Trenton Curtis has goals in 5 of his last 6 games since he was acquired from the Melfort Mustangs. That's been a match made in heaven too, Rory. And you're absolutely right about Morgan. Ethan Strick, you could maybe say the same things, you know, about him. We don't talk enough about these these La Ronge forwards.
Well, I was going to say, and not just a push in the power rankings too, guys, is the fact that like if they're playing 10 of the next 11 at home, you know, they're going to be pushing the Flin Flon Bombers, I think, at the top of that division, don't you think?
Man, what a crazy division, eh?
It really is,
Flin Flon, Melfort. We've seen great nights from Nipawin. Forgot to mention, you know, Maguire Ratzlaff. 13 goals all season this year. He's been unreal. He just finishes. Like, he's not the prettiest hockey player in the world, but he gets in the spots and he finishes. And, you know, they don't ask how, they ask how many. And Maguire Ratzlaff, the captain, has done it for the Nipawin Hawks, who lost Bryden Kiesman to the Portage Terriers. So they're going to need him even more.
Final one, I guess, for both of you guys. I'll ask you this one. You know, we were talking about, you know, some of the hottest teams in the league, and we had talked about Battleford, obviously, because they're 11-0-0-1. But, I mean, the Estevan Bruins had a 7-game winning streak, and it was snapped on Saturday. Rory, I guess, what do you make of the Bruins' play as of late? And do you think they can bounce back after this loss to Battleford and continue to play well and stay at the top of the Viterra division?
Yeah. I don't think they're going to have a problem bouncing back at all. They're one of the most talented teams in the league for sure. I think it was more of an anomaly, a slower start. Maybe, you know, the SJHL championship was, you know, still partying in their heads a bit and needed a wake-up call. They got one, and I don't think a loss to the Battleford's North Stars is anything to hang your heads about. The Estevan Bruins are for real. Cade Runke leads the league in points with 21 points in 15 games. They're getting support scoring as well, so yeah, Estevan will just be a tough out any night. And Nugsy didn't hit the panic button either, right? Nugsy, good for good reason. They're back. They're back in first.
Well, Jason Tatarnik's just going to keep adding. I mean, Sal Calora, they added him. You know, he's got a point. They got guys coming on in still. You know, stay tuned. Keep tuned to Estevan Bruins social media. And most importantly, Rory and Jeremy, Mr. Cam Herdlicka, who we had on, the hair himself, 37 save shutout on Friday. And I always talk about, how do you respond to adversity? How do you respond to a loss? Rory, you talked about how the Broncos hated the bitter taste of losing. You're going to lose in hockey. You're going to lose in sports. That's life. That's going to happen. The question is not whether you'll lose. The question is whether you respond well to it. And we saw that from Humboldt against Nipawin. We saw that from Battleford's against Estevan. And, we saw that Estevan against Kindersley. So it's, interesting. I remember Estevan losing at home beating Flin Flon there. So, it's a thing about how you respond all the time. And it should be very, very interesting to see where these teams go from here.
And it'll be a really interesting, I think, weekend, too, because Estevan plays Melfort in Melfort for a pair of games. So it should be a very interesting weekend for the Estevan Bruins. Coming up after the break, we are going to be joined by the latest Air Force commit, Notre Dame Hounds forward Will Dawson. We'll talk to him about that and the Hounds' start of the season right after the break. This is SJHL Weekly across all of the SJHL social media platforms.
Capital Auto Mall is a proud partner of the SJHL, supporting the rich traditions and proud future of junior hockey in Saskatchewan. Capital Auto Mall, on the corner of Rochdale and Pasqua in Regina.
Saskatchewan, you know SaskTel, because we're everywhere. Because being everywhere keeps us connected to you. You are what matters most. With SaskTel sponsorships, we get to be a part of your community. From the dance competitions, to the rodeos, to helping discover and embrace technology across the province, we're here with you, and we're here for you. It's easy to get started. All you need to do is apply. Every year, SaskTel contributes nearly $3 million to approximately 1,000 nonprofits, charities, associations, and events in more than 200 communities across Saskatchewan. So keep dancing, keep laughing, keep discovering, and we'll be there to help, to lend a hand, and join in the fun. SaskTel cares. Always has, always will, because we are dedicated to our home. To apply for sponsorship, visit sastel.com/sponsorships.
When you buy a lottery ticket in Saskatchewan, your money really goes a long way. More than 12,000 sport, culture, and recreation groups receive funding from Sask Lotteries every year.
For victims of domestic abuse, fleeing may mean leaving everything behind. There is hope. SaskTel provides brand new cell phones so that starting over is possible. Learn more at sastel.com/fresh start.
Boost your efficiency and your bottom line with Young's Equipment and Case IH tractors, including the cutting-edge Puma 150 CVX and the Maxim 145 with best-in-class efficiency. Check out the Case IH lineup today at Young's Equipment.
Kyle chirped me for the...
Welcome back to SJHL Weekly across the SJHL social media platforms. And of course, each and every edition of SJHL Weekly is presented by Chevrolet Capital Auto Mall, Great Western, Cantera Seats, RBC, Viterra, SaskTel, SGEU, Direct West, Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association, Tourism Saskatchewan, and Young's Equipment. My name's Jeromy Corrigan. My co-host is Jamie Neugebauer, and we are pleased to be joined live in studio by Air Force commit Will Dawson. Will, how are we doing today?
Doing great. How are you guys?
Doing great. We're having a good time. We're talking hockey. It's all good. I'll start with a nice softball question for you to start the interview. Let's talk about Saturday night against the Flin Flon Bombers. You guys pick up a 4-1 win. What'd you think of your team's performance?
Oh, that was great. We played a full 60 huge for us. We just did it one period at a time, and we got pucks on net and put them in. It was a great team win for us and a great full 60 minutes.
It's good. I guess when you look at the season as a whole to start this year for the Hounds, I guess it was a bit of a slow start, but it seems like you guys are turning it around right now. What do you think of the start so far?
Yeah, I mean, it was a little slow for us, but we're getting used to it. Some of the young guys are getting used to what the SJ has to offer, and we're just keep pushing, keep playing hard, and we're gonna hopefully get the results we want.
Got to ask you here. Let's get right into the let's get right into the meat of the hamburger here, Will. Air Force Academy, Division I NCAA. You got to be excited. I asked you a couple days ago in the office, but for the friends out there, why Air Force? How did that come about?
Why Air Force? It was because I like the coaches a lot. I like the facilities. The culture they have there at Air Force is something special. Also with the top academic school, it's a great school, so it checked all the boxes for me, and I just really liked it.
How long, I guess, have you been talking with Air Force? Like, how did this opportunity, I guess, come about for you, Will?
I talked to him a little bit at the end of last season, and then a little bit throughout the off season, and then when the season came, we kept talking pretty heavily, and we just went from there.
I got to ask you too, Will. I look at guys coming in, and there's guys that are older and a little bit more established, even though there are guys who are the same age as you, but just been around a bit more and got their scholarship and whatnot. And you had a couple of those examples, I guess, last year in Kevin Anderson and Jared Sitch, and then obviously at the trade deadline, a bunch of 20-year-olds coming in as well. So lots of guys for you to, I guess, learn from last year. But more specifically, I want to ask you about your relationship with Kevin Anderson last year. I think, Kevin and the team in a lot of ways took off when you and Connor Nolan and Kev were put together, last year, and the goals were flying in the second half. What did you learn from Kevin, and what kind of got into your head to say, I'm going to follow him around, I'm going to be in the gym with him, I'm going to eat what he eats, sleep when he sleeps, all those things. How did that kind of come about?
Well, Kevin is obviously a very good hockey player, so I looked up to him. He was also the leader on the team, so he took me under his wing and showed me what it takes to be like him, I guess, So.
For sure, but what kind of ended was that something that you intentionally did, or was it just that he was he's in the gym a lot, so I'm going to be in the gym a lot? How did that idea come to you to just say, I'm going to follow him around and be in his hip pocket?
Yeah, obviously, I guess he's was the best last year in my opinion. So if you want to be the best, you should hang out with him as much as you can. We became pretty close friends, and we were just always in the gym together, and we were just always together, and so he helped, and I learned a lot from him, so appreciate it.
Yeah. Young players at home, it's a good tip.
It is a good tip. When you look at your time with the Notre Dame Hounds so far, how have you seen your game, I guess, grow personally?
Yeah, obviously last year, it was my first year at junior, and I had a pretty slow start, and then the second half picked up pretty well for me, and I just wanted to show more this year, so in the off season I really focused on that, and so the beginning of this year was pretty solid for me. I just play my game, had a year of experience under me, so I just got to keep going, keep playing hard, and just fell right for me.
Yeah, I find every new year in the league, even if a guy's returning, it's always this feeling out process, right? Who on that team is the guy that we really got to worry about? Who we're going to match up against? Obviously, that's a coach's decision, but for you, I guess you started this year, gangbusters, hat trick at the showcase, pucks going in. And all of a sudden, teams and players in other leagues and other teams around the league are going to start to take that red marker and circle Will Dawson's name. It's just the way it goes, right? And I'm sure I know you don't think about that, but that's just the way it is. So I got to ask you, the uptick in attention maybe from other teams the last couple of games. Have you noticed that at all? Especially, obviously you've only played maybe one game since the commitment, but since you were near the top of the scoring lead, have you felt that this year guys are paying a little bit more attention to you? And if so, how are you kind of handling that?
Not really. I'm just really not focused on that.
Yeah.
I'm just focused on playing hockey, so I'm just trying to go out there and play the best I can and just go from there. Yeah.
I guess now that you have committed, and you're committed to Air Force, and you have your Division I scholarship, what's next? What do you want to accomplish with the Notre Dame Hounds?
Just want to win. We want to win, so we're just gonna keep playing hard. We're gonna we just want to win. So
For sure, and obviously a big part of that is, obviously there's no one-man team out there, right? Like, obviously you need everybody. So maybe who are some of the guys that you think people around the league aren't talking about on this Notre Dame team? And I don't want you to go through everybody, but just a couple guys you think that maybe deserve maybe a little bit more recognition from the people out there based on the way that, even though the results haven't maybe come every night for you guys, I think you guys have played pretty well in a lot of games.
yeah, I feel like our D-core, we have some young guys out there like Vinny. He's been playing really well, and he's
Vincent Palmerine,
yeah, he's 16 and he's playing a lockdown role at defense, and he's playing great.
Yeah, for sure. And the list goes on. Jacob Leegee, he's a kid. Again, the points haven't come, but he's electric out there. And Luke Helgeson, he keeps growing up in front of our eyes. The list goes on. And obviously Tucker and Abonnet is having a great week too.
I was going to ask now, from a player's perspective, in your eyes, when the Notre Dame Hounds are playing their best hockey, what kind of style of hockey are they playing?
We're playing a full 200-foot game. We're hard on pucks. We're winning our puck battles, and when we do that, we're very successful. So.
Perfect.
Yeah, for sure.
Final question for you. Obviously, now you had a nice little 4-game homestand finally after starting the week on the road, but now you guys are back out on the bus, on the road, 3 games and 3 nights this weekend. I guess your thoughts on the upcoming trip and what do you guys need to do to be successful this weekend?
We need to play. We take every 20 minutes, every period, we need to play a full 20 minutes, make that a full 60, play a full game, play our brand of hockey, and we'll be successful.
And I got it too. Like on top of that, Will, I got to ask you, I think a lot of things maybe clicked for you on this exact road trip in February last year. Nipawin, Flin Flon, L'Orange. Do you think that's accurate? Do you think something kind of clicked? And like, obviously those are very, very tough teams and tough barns, but it seems like maybe you played your best hockey up there.
Yeah, last year I played some great 3-3 on those road trips. I played some good hockey, and credit to the team as well. We went up there and swept them last year, which was huge. So, I mean, it was just fun.
Yeah, and like Nugsy mentioned, some tough rinks to play in. So it'll be a great weekend for the Notre Dame Hounds. Busy one, but I'm sure you'll get lots of rest ahead of the trip, and the Hounds looking to roll. Will, thanks so much for your time. We really appreciate it. This was great, and congratulations on your commitment.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
There you go. Committed to Air Force. Maybe he can fly us up there.
Maybe he can fly us out there. Nugsy, man, you're plugging everything these days.
No shortage of the bad jokes. I'm a dad, so it's okay.
Yeah, he's right. It's okay. Yeah. All right, all the plugins. That is Notre Dame Hounds forward Will Dawson. After the break, we will announce the SJHL Players of the Week, and we will also preview the rest of the week in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. This is SJHL Weekly across all of the SJHL social media platforms.
Get red and ready with Case IH and Young's equipment. From Case IH combines to MacDon headers, Young's carries all the best in new or pre-owned harvest equipment. With field-ready, industry-leading equipment and highly dedicated service staff, we're here when you need us most. Come experience our award-winning service for yourself and visit youngs.ca to find your nearest Young's equipment location.
You wouldn't take the ice without protective wear. So why would you take to the job site that way? The SCSA is proud to partner with the SJHL.
Make way for the first ever Chevrolet Silverado ZR2. With Multimatic shocks, rugged 33-inch tires, and front and rear electronic locking differentials.
Dude, this is awesome, but we should get back to work. This good? Perfect.
If you're gonna work remote, work remote. Find new workspaces. Find new roads. Chevrolet.
When you buy a lottery ticket in Saskatchewan, your money really goes a long way. More than 12,000 sport, culture, and recreation groups receive funding from Sask Lotteries every year.
Capital Auto Mall is a proud partner of the SJHL, supporting the rich traditions and proud future of junior hockey in Saskatchewan. Capital Auto Mall, on the corner of Rochdale and Pasqua in Regina.
Welcome back to SJHL Weekly, a presentation of Chevrolet, Capital Auto Mall, Great Western, Cantera Seeds, RBC, Viterra, SaskTel, SGEU, Direct West, Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association, Tourism Saskatchewan, and Young's Equipment. Thanks so much for joining us today. My name is Jeromy Corrigan. Big shout out to Will Dawson for joining us in studio here today. Jamie Neugebauer and Rory Mcgouran on the line as well. And boys, it is time to announce our SJHL Players of the Week. So let's get right into it, and let's start with the SGU MVP of the week. I know in our group chat we had some good debate, I think, when it comes to the MVP of the week, but it was decided that Jacob Boucher of the Humboldt Broncos is your SGU MVP of the week. 4 goals, 3 assists in his first 3 games with the Humboldt Broncos. Rory, what did you see from Boucher in his first 3 games in Humboldt Broncos lineup?
He's a really electric player, which I don't think anyone should be surprised with when you look at the numbers he put up in the WHL. Was able to get 20 points in 30 games with the Edmonton Oil Kings. The Broncos were kind of waiting for this guy to come back or come around because they acquired him in a trade about a year and a half ago when they sent Carter McNarland to the BCHL for Alex Soretsky and Jacob Boucher's rights. So now they're finally reaping the rewards, or more of them. Alex Soretsky's been fantastic, but they're reaping double the rewards now with Jacob Boucher coming in. He was on the top line with Lucas Ceccarelli and Cage Newens. And yeah, we saw him pick up a goal in his first game, then a 5-point night, including a hat trick against Nipawin, and then picked up the assist 9 seconds in. Great aggressive forecheck, strips the puck off the Mills blue liner, and then in front to Ceccarelli. So the one thing that I'm going to be watching, and we've seen it a lot before from WHL players coming into the SJHL, it's a different style of play here. And sometimes there's a little bit of a feeling out process about, the physicality, the lack of room on the ice. And if Jacob Boucher is getting 7 in his first 3, I can't wait to see what he's going to be able to do in his 12th game in the SJHL.
Yeah, it seems like it's been a seamless transition for him into Humboldt Broncos lineup so far. I mean, what's the expectation, I guess, for him in the Broncos lineup, I guess, moving forward for the rest of the season?
I think just be another catalyst on offense. Make sure you're playing on the right side of the puck, of course. But, Jacob Boucher is gonna get a lot of ice time. He's on the top line. He's going to get power play. And, I'm expecting him to be a point-per-game player, probably more closer to 1.3 points per game by the time the season's over, because he's getting all the opportunity playing with great teammates, line mates, who he would attest to his success. But he's just a really offensively gifted player, and we're going to see him put up points.
And adding to that depth of the Humboldt Broncos for sure. So a big congratulations to Jacob Boucher, SGU MVP of the week. So now let's go to SaskTel Goalie of the Week. And I guess we're sticking with teams that you guys cover for this one too, because now we're going to go to the Notre Dame Hounds and Tucker Inabene. Did I say that right, Jamie?
Inabene.
Inabene. There we go. I apologize.
Very close.
I was close. I was in the ballpark. But 2 wins for Tucker, 2 goals against average of 2 and a .945 save percentage. What did you see from Tucker this week for the Hounds?
Yeah, the first thing you see from Tucker is he's a big boy. He's about 6'3", 190, big, strong lad. And, I think early in his Notre Dame career, he was doing a little bit too much. I'm not a goalie expert. Most broadcasters aren't goalie experts unless they were former goalies, so I'm not going to pretend too much. But if you're a goalie and you're big, let the puck hit you and calm down a little bit. Tucker really did a good job of settling things down against Melfort. And Flynn Flon, he's a kid who was born in Phoenix, Arizona, played there until he was 8 or so, and then moved to Washington State. But 4 goals on 73 shots over 2 games. If you're gonna, only allow 2 goals a game, you really give your team a chance to win the hockey game. And Tucker, more than anything, and I think the Hounds played very well against Melfort and against Flin Flon. More than anything, you give your team a chance to win. And Tucker did just that. So, very happy for him.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, obviously the Hounds are kind of turning it around a little bit right now, obviously with back-to-back wins. And it seems like Tucker's going to be a big part of that, especially going into 3 games in 3 nights this week.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, obviously Ashton Billsberger is still here, and he had a great performance, did Billsberger and Nipawin. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens. 3-3, it's hard for a goalie to play. And, you heard Will there talking, and I know for sure Tucker would agree, because I post-game interviewed him after the Flin Flon game, or against the Melfort game, I should say. And he would agree with Will that the D-corps for Notre Dame is extremely, extremely underrated. Matthew Ron and Estevan as an 05 D is doing a great job. I would take Vincent Palmerine as the best 2005 D-man in the league. So best D-man in the league, maybe, in Jared Sitch. Best 05 D-man in the league in Vinny Palmerine. You play them, obviously, Sam Kroon, Luke Helgeson, Alex Stewart, Connor O'Keefe is starting to get more comfortable. The list goes on and on and on as the Hounds try to deal with some injury and some illness to Sammy Bourgeois. But, yeah, Tucker is playing well, and the D-corps is playing well in front of him.
And big congratulations to Tucker at being named SaskTel Goalie of the Week. Now to Direct West Rookie of the Week. And for the second straight week, we get to stay in between the pipes for the Rookie of the Week. This time going to Larange Ice Wolves netminder Topher Chirico. Rory, you saw him on Tuesday against the Humboldt Broncos. He had a 44-save performance. He had 2 wins this week, a goals against average of 2, a .954 save percentage. What did you see from him in that Tuesday night game against Humboldt?
Yeah, he was huge in that game against Humboldt. Larange Ice Wolves did a really good job of steering the majority of the Broncos' 46 shots to the outside. A lot of perimeter action came towards Chirico, but he was a wall, man. 44 saves on 46, and it wasn't like it let up later in the week, as he had to stop 36 of 38 in that victory over the Melville Millionaires. And Chirico, when he first came into the league this season, of course, 2 rough games to start, right? Let in 5 goals on 30 shots against Melfort, and then let in 9 goals in that 10-3 victory for Humboldt at the Showcase. It was a 10:30 a.m. game. So goalies, we know they have their routines, their rituals. That's an outlier to me. We're seeing what this kid's really capable of in the last 2 games. You mentioned it, 957 against Humboldt and a 947 against Melville. If this is what we're going to be used to down the stretch, it's another weapon for Larange in between the pipes to pair with Dawson Smith. And for Tucker and Abonnet and Topher Chirico to both be rookies and both be goalies, I think they can share both those honors of goaltender and rookie of the week. They were both spectacular.
Yeah, absolutely. All great points, Rory. And yeah, I see these guys as pretty similar in terms of their path to the SJHL and to start in the SJHL too. Topher Chirico out of minor hockey in Colorado. He's a guy that had a lot of success in minor hockey. Last year in U18, a 163 goals against, a 934 save percentage in 33 games. So that's a big sample size at Rocky Mountain in Colorado. He's from Kansas State, so I don't know how many kids you see from Kansas State, but great for him. And again, another kid that the Larange Ice Wolves went out and found from somewhere and brought them to Larange, and they're great. So, huge kudos to Kevin Kuminski for sure, but his scouting staff, his networks, his connections. And with Chirico and Smith, who's from, up the north in the territories, you've got a very interesting pairing in terms of where these guys are from. But both of them are absolute stars in this league right now.
Yeah, I mean, like Rory mentioned, if you have an excellent 1-2 punch net like that moving forward, that's only going to be a huge asset for the Larange Ice Wolves moving forward, because then both goaltenders are going to be fresh come playoff time. And I know Rory also mentioned it. We did have some good fun debate, I guess, in our group chat when it came to picking goalie of the week and rookie of the week, because we knew both were playing well, and then we were decide, well, which one gets which reward or award. And really, it was like Rory mentioned, both players very deserving of both awards. Final one to hand out is Defenseman of the Week, and I think the storylines with this one's pretty good. Defenseman of the Week this week from the Flin Flon Bombers, Alex von Sprecken. He had a goal and 3 assists in 4 games played. For the Flin Flon Bombers, Jamie, I mean, you saw him on Saturday. What'd you see from von Sprecken, I guess, on Saturday? But doesn't really surprise you. He's kind of fit in with Flin Flon seamlessly early on.
Yeah, I mean, and Rory, you agree with me. We've talked about this many times, that atmosphere up in the Whitney Forum in the finals last year was so special. And Alex von Sprecken, as part of the Estevan Bruins, obviously experienced that from the enemy side. And I think he wants to win. He loves to compete. I would take him as the strongest kid in the SJHL. We don't have any sort of competition. Maybe Kyle McIntyre and the commissioner could hook that up. We can have some sort of SJHL strongest person competition. Alex von Sprecken would be my pre-tournament pick for that. So he's as strong as they get. Scored a goal for Flin Flon against Estevan at Affinity Place. And it was a snipe and a beauty too this past week. So good for Alex, and I think it's just a situation where he loves Estevan, does von Sprecken. He loves the Estevan community. I spoke to him in Wilcox a bit. Nobody on the Flin Flon Bombers, no disrespect intended, played very well against the Hounds. The Hounds did well. The Bombers maybe not so much. But von Sprecken, he'll give you 100% effort. And let me tell you. You ask Mike Reagan about this kid, his eyes light up. And a 4-game Southern swing where he gets to hang out with the boys on the road for von Sprecken here with the Flin Flon Bombers is a perfect start to his career with the Flin Flon Bombers.
Rory, you want to touch on that?
I just want to jump.
Yeah,
I just want to jump on the back. Thanks so much. Can you envision a more Flin Flon Bomber defenseman than what Alex von Sprecken brings to the table? Isn't he perfect for that team? So when Mike Reagan found out he could become available, I'm sure his eyes lit up really wide because von Sprecken, and then in his first 5 games with the Bombers, got a point in every single game. I know they all weren't this past week, but didn't have any adjustment period. And then a final question for you, Newsy. How good do you think it feels for Alex von Sprecken to score in the first game against his former team? And it was a close game. I know they didn't win that one, but Vonnie got the goal against the Bruins. I'm sure that one was nice for him.
Friends and family. He's from Estevan too. So again, just got to feel amazing.
Producer Clark and myself were at that game, and I can easily say, without a shadow of a doubt,
stir the pot.
Well, it's not really stirring the pot. This is a fact. It was the loudest cheer of the night when he found the back of the net. When he scored that goal for the Flin Flon Bombers, it was easily the loudest cheer of the night. And you know what? That's, I think, one of the reasons why we love hockey so much is you can't write that stuff. That's unbelievable.
I heard there was a little skate by the bench as well.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. I don't know. We'd have to check the tape on that one. I'm not...
Superfan Carl had a big smile.
Yeah, we'll have to check the tape on that one. So congratulations to Alex von Sprecken of the Flin Flon Bombers for being named Defenseman of the Week. So SGAU MVP of the week is Jacob Boucher of the Humboldt Broncos, 4 goals and 3 assists. SaskTel goalie of the week is Tucker Inabene at 2 wins, 2 goals against, a .945 save percentage. Direct West rookie of the week is Topher Chirico of the Larange Ice Wolves, 2 wins, 2 goals against average, and a .954 save percentage. And of course, like I just mentioned, defenseman of the week, Alex von Sprecken of the Flin Flon Bombers, 1 goal, 3 assists. Congratulations to all 4 of the players. After the show, you can read more about the players of the week on sjhl.ca with the full article. But guys, I want to ask you this. Now, we're as we near the end of the show, we are exactly a month into the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League season. Rory, I'll start with you. We're a month into, the 2022-2023 season. When you look at the first month of the year, what stands out so far to you?
That's tough to say, and I think you got to start at the top with the Battlefords North Stars and the way they've come out of the gate. I think it's they're ranked number 3 now in all of Canada. They were number 1 last week. I think we're still seeing the same parity across the league. We have great goaltenders, which I think didn't shock me. We always have great goaltenders, but with the amount of turnover between the goaltenders from last year, really the top goaltenders from last year to this year, we're seeing really nice pieces come in and take over in between the pipes. But I want to see if Battleford and Humboldt continue their stretch. I want to see when we look at the playoff race down at the bottom line. I know we're only 10 games, a little bit more, 25% done the season. But if I had to ask you guys the question, if you're looking at the playoff line right now, you got Melfort, Nipawin, Yorkton, and La Ronge from 8 to 5. Are you seeing this kind of look concrete, or are one of those 4 bottom teams going to make a push in the second little half of the season here?
Well, you can call me a cop-out if you want, but the problem with this league, Rory, is that the parity is such that, the Nipawin Hawks, they lost 11-4 against Humboldt at home. Obviously, they weren't happy, but then they can turn around and have 3 or 4 good results, and 100%. It's another completely different conversation. Melville Millionaires, we know what Zach Kane, Noah Wills, blah, blah, can do. And a given night, Kelton Pine has been everything that the Melville Millionaires were hoping for in net and more. It's too hard.
What a
Rory.
reaction,
it's too hard,
folks.
Too hard.
Actually, I'm glad you brought that up, Rory, because that literally was going to be my next question. Because looking at the standings going into after this weekend and going into this week, from 6 through 12, we're separated by just 6 points. It's pretty incredible when you think about. I know, like you said, it's only a month into the season, but do you think something like that, only being that much separation, is going to continue throughout the year?
Yep, I 100% do. Yeah. And that's why I asked the question to Nugsy, because I didn't know if I would get an answer out of him. Because you look at Weyburn, you look at Notre Dame, right? They're capable of beating anyone on any given 100%. Night. Kindersley just beat Melfort. So is that going to spur the Clippers onto a bit of a positive stretch? I know they had a rough start to begin, but yeah, and I want to just even compress it a bit. You got 3 points in between 6th and 10th. Yeah. So, only 2 of those 4 teams are getting in. And right now they're basically a win away from leapfrogging up 4 spots. Yes, to answer your question in a shorter form, I think by game 54, this is exactly what it's going to look like.
Jamie?
Yeah, you know what? Man, and it's great news.
It's awesome.
It's great news.
It's great. You're right.
You want to show up to an SJ game and really not know what's going to happen. 100%. I mean, Battleford's is 11-1, and even if you ask Braden Klamosko, he would say there were teams that played us that played better than us. Right. Like how that happened does not happen in every junior A league in Canada. So, just continuing the point, the parity is suffocating. You strap in for the ride because we're all the winners.
Well, I mean, we're going to be talking about it, I think, throughout the whole year. Prime example, I think, just a couple of weeks ago, the Weyburn Red Wings only lost 2-1 to the Battleford North Stars at home. Daza Mitchell had an outstanding game in between the pipes, but like you mentioned, any team can beat any team on any given night. And a prime example of it, I think, look at the Melfort Mustangs this past weekend. Yeah. You go into Battleford and you earn a 2-1 shootout win over at the time the number 1 ranked team in the country. Yeah. And then the very next night, you fall to the Kindersley Clippers 7-4. So I think, when you look at that, I think that's a prime example of the parity in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League.
And when you have leagues that are parity, and Rory, you and I talk about this all the time. Do you have a stretch of home games coming up? Do you have a stretch of road games coming up? Because home ice advantage in this league is also
big time,
very meaningful because there's so much character and so many different elements to the different rinks. The La Ronge Ice Wolves have 10 of the next 11 at home. I mean, Battleford's has 1 million games at home coming up. So
I think they're through that stretch.
No, they still play at home till the end of the month until they play the home and home against Humboldt. They have an 8-game homestand.
And that will be a big test.
Yeah.
So.
8-game homestand. So there's some road games coming later on, right?
Exactly.
So that'll be a test for the Battleford's North Stars.
And so that's what you see in parity leagues, whatever the sport, right? Like the home team has a little bit of an edge. And we saw that. I mean, how many people if there was a betting ring, which there isn't, don't yell at me, Commissioner Kyle, if there's no betting ring, but if there was a betting ring, Melfort and Flin Flon against Notre Dame, how many people are honestly putting money on Notre Dame, especially against the red-hot, loaded, experienced Flin Flon Bombers? I don't know how many people are. I am, because they're my kids, my guys. But not many people are. But what did they do? The Hounds dominated them. In Wilcox, on that ice, it changes the game. 4 and 5, it changes the game. But still, that's the league we're in.
That's the league we're in. And that's a perfect segue. Let's take a look at the schedule this week in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. There's not much actually going on during the week. We have one game tomorrow night. The Kindersley Clippers continue their 5-game homestand as they play host to the Weyburn Red Wings. Wednesday, we have a day off. Then Thursday, there are a pair of games. The Notre Dame Hounds kick off their 3-game and 3-night swing as they take on the Nipawin Hawks, third meeting of the season between those two teams. And then Yorkton is in Battleford, and they kick off 3 games and 3 nights as well. Then we shift to Friday, much, much busier. Notre Dame will be in Flin Flon at the Whitney Forum to take on the Bombers. Melville and Weyburn play a home-and-home this weekend. Yorkton plays their second game against Battleford. Humboldt is in Kindersley, and Melfort plays host to Estevan. And then on Saturday, we have another jam-packed 5-game schedule in the second half of the home-and-home between Melville and Weyburn. Nipawin is in Humboldt. Yorkton and Kindersley finishing off 3-3. Notre Dame finishing off 3-3 in La Ronge at the Mel. And then the second half of the pair of games between Estevan and Melfort. Rory, when you look at this week's schedule and slate of games, what are you looking forward to the most, and what are you keeping your eye out for?
Weyburn is the team I am looking at this week. They play 3 games, and they're playing teams that are in that group with them. So they got the Kindersley Clippers first, then they got 2 against the Melville Millionaires throughout this week. Those are teams they need to pick up victories against, and if they do, they're going to find themselves flirting with 8th spot, maybe a point out of the playoff race. Big week for the Weyburn Red Wings because these are the teams that when you look at game 55, 56, and then you come back and take a look at this week, if you can pick up victories now against them, these are the teams that you're going to be fighting for that 8th and final playoff spot with come game 56. So big week for Weyburn. That's who I'm watching. And Weyburn, you know what? They've had some success early on this year against the one team they've really had some success against is the Melville Millionaires. So it should be really interesting because they've already got 2 wins against Melville this year. Jamie, what about you?
Look, so I love the little stories within the stories. That's what we're doing here. And there's something going on the last number of years, not just this year, number of years. Okay. Not in terms of personality. Between Matt Hare and the Yorkton Terriers and Brady Klamosko and the Battleford North Stars, 2 of the loveliest human beings. They're incredible guys. Adore them both. When for some reason, no matter how good Battleford's is, no matter where Yorkton is, Matt Hare finds a way to give Brady Klamosko sleepless nights. For some reason. I don't know what it is. And it's obviously the players on Yorkton who are working hard. But the Yorkton Terriers have 2 against the Battleford's North Stars here Thursday, Friday. And the second you count out the Yorkton Terriers is the second they always come up with a brilliant couple performances. So, again, it's always tough. Battleford's is so hard at home. We've talked about that. They're so deep. But for some reason, Matt Hare knows how to game plan against the Battleford's North Stars, so that's what I got my eye on.
And I think when you have a goaltender like Caleb Allen and how well he's played to start this season, you know, that's going to be a great 2 games, I think, at the ACC in Battleford because, you know, you have 2 of the top goaltenders in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League going up against each other, so it should be a really good matchup depending on how those, you know, I guess they decide on who's going to start for each game. For me, I want to build off that a little bit when it comes to you talked about Yorkton playing 3 games and 3 nights, 2 games against Battleford. But for me, always when it comes to keeping my eye out for, it's those teams that are on those 3-3s. Because, you know, that's a stretch where you can obviously make up some ground. You know, Rory touched on, you know, Weyburn plays 3 games this week. Notre Dame plays 3-3. Yorkton plays 3-3. A lot of busy weeks. And this is where you can kind of make up a lot of ground, and getting points on the road in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League is always so difficult. So if you can pick up points on the road, you know, that's only going to help you down the stretch when it comes to getting into the playoffs potentially.
Yeah, pick up points on the road and respond the right way to bad results. And that, you know, we saw that a bunch of times. We saw that with Battleford. We saw that with Humboldt. Respond the right way. Be very, very interesting Thursday night, not just because I'm going to be there in Nipawin, how the Nipawin Hawks respond to losing 11-4, because this is their first game since getting crushed 11-4. It's their second game since that big trade for that sent their star, their leader, Bryden Kiesman, offensive leader other than Ratzlaff, you know, to Portage, and they got two younger guys back from Portage, De Leon and Cameron, 2 forwards. So it'll be interesting to see them, but. boy, oh boy, losing like that on home ice is never easy. So I expect there are going to be some piss and vinegar in the Nipawin Hawks on Thursday night at the Centennial Arena.
Wow.
If I
Can I
may,
use
Jeremy,
that word?
one more
Please
point.
do. Yeah.
When you look at the top, Battleford and Humboldt, I'm just, that life is going to get even increasingly more difficult for them because they are the top 2 teams in the SJHL, and every other team, when they go up against North Stars or the Humboldt Broncos, they're bringing their A game. 100%. So I just want to see how long they can continue this trend for.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And I think just the final thought on that is it's incredible that we're a month into the season. We've talked about the parity in the league, and yet you still see 2 teams near the top of the standings with records like they do. But it's going to be another great week of hockey in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. Before we go, once again, we have to say a big shout out to all of our sponsors: Chevrolet, Capital Auto Mall, Great Western, Cantera Seeds, RBC, SaskTel, SGEU, Direct West Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association, Tourism Saskatchewan, and Young's Equipment. Thank you so much. We wouldn't be able to put on these amazing shows each and every week if it wasn't for your support. You can stay up to date in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League with all of our social medias, as you can see on the screen if you're watching, or if you're on the audio version later on listening on. You can like us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, follow us, like us on Facebook as well. And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It is free, and that's where you can watch all our shows on demand, all of our different features, really everything, highlights, you name it, on the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League YouTube page. But once again, thank you so much for joining us this week. For Rory Mcgouran out in Humboldt, for Jamie Neugebauer right beside me. Great show, guys. My name is Jeromy Corrigan, and this has been another great edition of SJHL Weekly across the SJHL social media platforms.